volunteer work for UBC, and they have a beautiful Indian collection at UBC in the museum there. And they said, well, how do you do what you do? And I said, I can't explain it because I'm thinking in Indian, trying to take it out in English, you know, bring it out so that they would understand. And the closest I could get to is spiritual. It is a strength from within, I think, that keeps you. It just seems like the books keep opening in your mind, and then you remember things from when you were a little girl. Even Indian words I hadn't heard for a long time come back when I'm doing this.
Now let's take a look at some of the things you brought with you. There's first one item that I wanted to get, and I think in itself, I'll just hold that up so we can get a shot of it.
That's a Nootka basket. It's made with swamp grass, and it's a natural dyes, and that's why it's got that dull color. And it'll stay like that forever, and you can still see the green from the natural grass.
It's very bright. Now, the thing that's so interesting is the age.
Yes, it's about 200 or 300. We haven't got it right down, but they were making them before contact.
Now, this is almost 300 years old then. I'm not sure that I've ever touched anything that old.
I let children touch it too, and they love it. And especially with children, they say how much. Kids nowadays are very conscious of how much things cost. I think even more so than adults, really, with things like this. Children will say, how much does it cost? And you tell them, and they'll say, wow, and they all pass it along. And they're great. They hold it. They're very careful with it. That's been going to school for a lot of years.
Now, I'm going to ask exactly what the kids did. How much would something like this be worth?
I haven't got a price on it. It's so old.
That's fascinating. Things like this really are priceless, and you can't buy time like that. Now, let's just bring up maybe perhaps the cedar basket. You were saying earlier in the show that they used to actually make the clothes.
They made the clothes out of the cedar, and the mats, and they'd weave it with, they'd reinforce it with nettles. On the West Coast, it's not that prickly nettle, it's that you touch it and you get a rash right away. It gets very itchy. And they grow maybe 7 feet high. And then at a certain time of the year, the Indians would cut it down, dry it, and then just peel it in water, put it in water.
It's very soft. I can't believe how actually.
And we have a beater at home that I take to the children to show them how the Indians used a beater. And you know, they even use the cedar for diapers.
Really?
And you know, this is hard to imagine, but on the West Coast, in the books that I've read, they always say Indians used moss. So when we went to the coast, we went and did some research. The whole family and I went out and did research. And even in the hottest day in the summer, that moss is damp on the West Coast. It's always damp. So we went back and asked the elders, did they really use moss? And they said, no, we used cedar. I said, well, it's awfully hard. I said, remember, in the old days, they didn't rush, too. There was a lot of people to do things. So the youngest daughter, even the youngest daughter, had a little beater, and she'd sit there and imitate the elders.
Really?
And make, soften the cedar for diapers, etc., because there's always been babies.
Now, there's one other item here that I thought was quite indicative of